He also, as this book will illustrate, came perilously near to destroying it, in order to retain the trading monopolies by means of which he and the officers of the New South Wales Corps made their personal fortunes. Very extensive reading has convinced me that, judged by the standards of their day and age, William Bligh was the most honourable man, John MacArthur the cause of his downfall, almost single-handed. It is interesting to note that of the governors and acting governors who followed the upright and far-sighted Admiral Phillip, Colonel Patterson, in a single year, disposed of more land, 68,101 acres, than any who went before him. The rebel administration between Bligh's arrest and Governor Macquarie's arrival granted a total of 82,086 acres in, one can only suppose, an endeavour to reward those who gave their support or whose loyalty had to be bought. John MacArthur, however, received a grant of only 3 acres in the town of Sydney, 2 of which he exchanged, quite legally, for a similar acreage in Parramatta. Nevertheless, he was the colony's largest and wealthiest landowner, with a holding of 8,533 acres in all, against Governor Bligh's comparatively modest 1,345. See Historical Records of Australia and McCanus. Finally, I should mention that I spent 8 years in Australia and travelled throughout the country from Sydney to Perth, across the Null-Arbor Plain, and to Broome, Wyndham, Derby, Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide, with a spell in the islands and the Dutch East Indies, having served in the forces during World War II, mainly in Burma. Prologue. Abigail Tempest watched in unhappy silence as her father set spurs to his horse and cantered off down the long, weed-grown drive. She waited until he was out of sight, and then said, her forehead still pressed against the glass of the window, "Papa has gone, Rick. I was so hoping that he would change his mind, because he promised, you know. He gave me his word." Her brother Richard came to stand behind her. He was in naval uniform, wearing the white patches of a midshipman earned after 2 years at sea as a lowly volunteer. He eyed her bent fair head a trifle sceptically. He was 17, only a year older than Abigail, but already he was more than a head taller than she was, and, in his considered opinion, vastly her senior now in worldly experience. At pains not to sound condescending, he said, "You don't understand, Abby. Papa could not refuse an invitation from Lord Ashton. He's a rear admiral, and Papa's patron, and besides, a retired rear admiral," Abigail pointed out. "And poor Papa doesn't need a patron to advance him in the naval service now, does he?" "No," her brother conceded, "but I do. It is thanks to his lordship's influence that I have been appointed to the Seahorse. She is a 42-gun frigate, you know. With the country at war, you would have no trouble finding a berth," Abigail assured him. She turned from the window to face him, and Richard was shocked when he glimpsed the pain in her eyes. She was such a pretty girl, he thought, with her slim, lithe body and shining corn-coloured hair. Pretty and talented. Possessed of a charming singing voice and no little skill at the piano. On the threshold of womanhood, she would have been carefree and happy, with a host of admiring young beaux, vying for her favours, but instead... He sighed, reaching for her hand as she went on bitterly. "They will play after dinner, Rick. They always do. And for high stakes, which Papa cannot afford." "He might win," Rick offered, but without conviction. For answer, Abigail gestured to the sparsely furnished room behind them. "Can't you see? Are you blind? The pictures have all gone. All Grandpapa's books and Mamma's cherished china. Even the cabinet she loved so much, the one Thomas Sheraton made. I know you've been away for 2 years, Rick, but surely you've noticed how different things are now." "I did notice that there were only 3 horses in the stable," Richard admitted, "and no carriage, but—" "They were all sold," Abigail told him. "The bailiffs came 3 weeks ago to take Mamma's cabinet and the piano away. They would have taken..."